Hey guys, my name's Ahmed. I'm a sports photographer located here in Virginia, and I really was interested in starting a YouTube channel dedicated to sports photography and little niche areas in photography that aren't covered by most of the other channels. So today I'm really going to talk about a question that plagued me when I was starting out in sports photography, and that was whether or not you should just jump to the 400 or get a 300mm 2.8. Now both these are staple lenses in sports photography, but I'm really going to go through like the details of why I use each lens and if each lens would suit the purpose that you want. So I hope you guys appreciate it. Give me a thumbs up if you like the video and subscribe because I'm really trying to grow this channel. Thank you so much. Alright guys, so let's go through a couple of physical differences between the lenses. So as you can see, the 400 is almost 15 inches long. They'll vary, give it or take about a half inch depending on the manufacturer. The 300 2.8s, generally they'll be about 10 to 11 inches long. You get about a difference, I don't know if you can see it, it's probably about 3 inches here, depends on the lens. However, when we put lens hoods on, it's a different story, so give me a second, I'm going to put the lens hoods on for both of these. So comparing them physically, especially with the lens hoods on, we can see just how big the 400 is. And that's one thing to really take into account when using it. This 400 is absolutely massive compared to the 3, even with the lens hood on. Now oftentimes I won't shoot with the lens hood on, especially with Nikon. Sometimes I'll take this outermost one on. I know with the Canon ones, they're one piece. This also makes it a pain. If you ever break one of these, they're also extremely expensive to replace regardless of the mount. So do take caution when using either of these lenses, especially with their lens hoods. So the other thing to really take into account with these lenses is weight. A 300 2.8 will generally be about 2.5 to 3 kilograms. This thing, 400 2.8, will generally be about 4 to 5. Now, recent lenses have really dropped this off. I know the new offerings from Sony and Canon both have made it a sub 3 kilogram lens, which is absolutely astonishing for something of this size and this much glass. I know they've been pushing the elements that were closer to the front to the back to reduce their size and reduce their weight, which is awesome. I think closer to 3 kilograms is hand holdable, especially for a longer duration, where something like this, a 4 kilogram lens, I really just could not hand hold this for an entire game at all. So take that into account. And if it comes to size and you really just can't physically carry such a big lens, you're gonna have to go with the 300, and you can probably get something like a teleconverter, which makes a 300 2.8 a 400 f4. The other thing to talk about with these lenses is definitely price. A 400 2.8, a new one from any of the big 3 manufacturers, is going to cost you about $12,000. Yes, that is 5 figures, $12,000. A 300 2.8 is going to be anywhere from 5 to about 6,500, so literally half the cost. So you're going to be doubling how much you have to pay in order to get a 400 2.8. So keep that in mind. The one thing I would strongly suggest would be buying these used. These are built just so well. They're near indestructible lenses. The only thing that usually fails on these is focus motors, and the manufacturers will usually have them for almost 15 to 20 years. I know these, Nikon just stopped supporting them about 2 to 3 years ago, and they were made in the late 90s, which is absolutely crazy to me, but they do have the support of the manufacturer for a really long time. So the next thing is use. So use for these. So the 400 I like using a lot more for field sports, so things like football, soccer, baseball, things where the athlete's far away. I really do like using it. It isolates the athlete unlike anything else. That's why I love the 400 for all field sports, but it is always married to a monopod for me. So that's one thing to take into account. You do lose a lot of mobility with the 400. If you are someone who likes to shoot and moves around, likes a ton of different angles on the field, the 400 is something I'm not going to really suggest to you. I think the 300, just because it's so light, you can move around and you can hand hold it, that's the way to go. The 300 I also use for almost any sport there is. I use it from everything from swimming all the way to football, and I just think that amount of mobility that it provides me, it makes it my go-to for most occasions. And that is really the strength of the 300, really is that mobility that you get. But in terms of pure image quality, the 400 is a superior lens. There's really no doubt about it. And of course, by image quality, I mean more than just sharpness. If it was only sharpness, they're really just about the same. There's really no sharpness difference between them, and that's usually for almost any manufacturer. They're just that good. But usually the 400 is going to be the best lens in any manufacturer's lineup. That's just how it is. The other thing to take into account is the learning curve with each of these lenses. I think the 300 has a much less learning curve. So the 400's learning curve is a lot more just because it's that much more of a tight frame. It makes it a little bit harder to get used to. So that panning with the 400 takes more getting used to than with the 300. I think the 300 was just a bit more natural to me, and that's from my experience. So take that as you may. That's just one thing to consider. Here is probably my favorite lens in the world. This is my 70-200 version 2 for the Nikon mount. I don't know if you can even see it next to these, but it's just an absolutely tiny lens. Let me put the hood on it too. But really with this 70-200, these lenses aren't real necessities. They're just additional lenses, and they alter the way you shoot. So for me personally, if I had to choose between this 300 and this 400, I would choose the 400 all day long. I think the 300 is a little too close to my 70-200. Now the one thing that actually is an advantage is this is light enough that I can pretty much drop it and it'll be on my shoulder strap, and I can get to my 70-200 in time to get the action if it's coming towards me. Something like the 400, it's so big and it's on a monopod that you kind of have to lay it down and then get the 70-200. So I do miss the shots in between putting the 400 down and picking up my 70-200, and I don't experience that with the 300. That's just something to keep in mind. I think the 400 is the one that does have the better image quality. It is a lot better. There's a lot more of a learning curve with the 400. That's just something to take into account. But I think for most people, the 300 is more than enough. And the thing is, for me personally, I think the 300 is a more versatile lens. I end up using this, I would say usage across all sports, the 300 is higher. And so if you are a sports photographer and you can only use one super telephoto lens, I think the 300 is the way to go. This is probably, I think, one of the best values for the money in the telephoto world. For the field sports that I do a lot of, which is football, soccer, and things like baseball, I do end up using the 400 more. So those are just two things to take into account. If you do night sports, you pretty much are stuck with one of these two. If you're doing football outdoors and high school lighting, you're really going to have to look at a 2.8, and those are just the things to consider. If you're shooting at night, you know that f4, you can't do it with a small lens. You got to do one of these two 2.8s. So thank you guys for watching. I appreciate it. Give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed the video. If you have any questions, put them below. Pretty much that's the entire video. So guys, I really want to thank you guys for staying with the video this long. So like, comment, subscribe. And if you guys want me to continue doing this, or like talking about other lenses, especially older ones that are usually not covered in other videos, just let me know and I'll do that. I really enjoy doing this, so let me know guys, and thumbs up is a great help. Thank you guys so much.